Great. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here today. We are here to talk about a new designation that we're creating for farm vehicles to really help cut the red tape. We're going to create a designation called Covered Farm Vehicles for our #1 industry here in Nebraska. Part of my goal as governor is to make government more business friendly, make it easier to do business with us, and treat the people of Nebraska like our customers. And we want to make sure we're doing that for our #1 industry as well. So working with the Nebraska cattlemen, and John Schroeder here is going to talk about that in just a moment, representing the cattlemen, the folks in state government to create this covered farm vehicle designation to make it easier for our ag producers to be able to do business. Essentially what we're going to be doing is creating this designation for a variety of different vehicles like trucks or manure spreaders or hay grinders that would allow an ag producer using that vehicle for an ag purpose to get that designation from the state without having to have a commercial driver's license. So basically making it easier for people to do everyday business that involves a farm or ranch without having to go through all the hassle of getting the CDL. And this is just one of the ways that we can make it easier for our farms and ranches to be able to do a better job and cut that regulatory red tape that goes along with it. You'll be able to find the details about how that's going to work on nebraska.gov, but just in principle, it's going to be pretty easy. All you have to do is go online, fill out a real short form, and print that form off and keep it with you along with the title of your vehicle, and of course you'll still have to have a regular driver's license as well. But that is how simple it will be. And again, this is something we can do to make it easier on our #1 industry to be able to grow and create jobs here in Nebraska. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John, and he's going to talk a little bit about it from the cattleman's perspective. John?
Thank you. Nebraska cattlemen would like to thank Governor Ricketts and his entire administration for working with ag stakeholders to improve Nebraska's licensing rules. Today's announcement gives certainty to agricultural producers and law enforcement about which vehicles and equipment qualify under the exemption for covered farm vehicles. MAP 21 gave states the ability to make a special designation for covered farm vehicles, and our members really welcome this. Much needed regulatory relief. Feed trucks, manure spreaders, and other farm equipment are used primarily off-highway when producers are moving between fields and feeding operations. It is impractical to require these vehicles to have operators obtain CDLs like long-haul semi-truck drivers. It is in the best interest of producers to use infrastructure not only legally but also responsibly to ensure public safety and help maintain the condition of the roads. So on a personal note, this really has been a blessing to use common sense in our state and put things forward so that we stay competitive with other states surrounding us. It's been refreshing to be able to have conversation with legislators here in Nebraska that get our point and have the support from the governor and his office in making sure that we have a plan going forward that makes us very competitive to do the right things. And we really appreciate the opportunity to clear up some of these gray areas in this law so that we can have the respect for our law enforcement agencies that they deserve as they do a wonderful job for us every day. So with that, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, John. And again, I think that John's point is a good one there about just using some common sense with regard to how we apply our laws and rules so that it works best for everybody and we can make it easier on our farmers and ranchers to be able to grow their business while also clarifying for law enforcement how this is going to work. So with that, we'd like to just go ahead and open up to questions and answers.
I guess maybe this is either for John or yourself, but you mentioned stay competitive. How does these plates help the state stay competitive in that industry?
Well, I'll take a crack, and John, I'll let you take a crack as well. So back in 2012, the federal government passed a law allowing states to make this designation. And other states like Kansas and Iowa have already given this covered farm vehicle designation so that their producers don't have to get the CDL just to operate ag vehicles for ag purposes. And so we were a little bit behind here in Nebraska, and this is one of the ways that by making this designation, we can be competitive with what other states are doing. John?
It's been great that designations came out, and there was a lot of just gray area, and it was maybe applied differently in different parts of the state, different assumptions. And the thing this really helps with is clear up that gray area, and it's black and white of what is legal and what is not. And for agricultural people here in Nebraska, we want to be law-abiding citizens. We work every day to provide food to feed plenty of people here in Nebraska across our domestic market, but also globally. And being able to do our business legally is very important to us. And this really helps lay it out black and white, and has cleared up a lot of those gray areas, which brings a lot of confidence amongst all stakeholders.
Day to day, are these just common short trip, using out on the road kind of vehicles we're talking about?
Sure. So some quick examples. There's a gentleman in our area that had a feed truck that his yard is by his house, and that's where his high moisture corn and silage piles are at. He loads his feed truck up at that operation where his corn bins are, and then he utilizes the county road for a quarter of a mile to go down to where his pens are. And he'd had some run-ins and some issues with that, and owns ground on and his family's owned ground for 40 years plus on both sides of the road. And so it's clearing up some of those types of issues, so that something that is very common sense and done every day, feeding cattle, is cleared up. And again, the responsibility is making sure that we are doing things, because tomorrow we have to use that road, and we have our families on those roads. And so it's very important that we are responsible stewards as we go along here. And this helps with that, and it helps use common sense for what our purpose is.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. It just points out that by creating this designation so that you don't have to have that commercial driver's license, there really are two different things. Going a quarter mile down a county road to be able to get to feed your cattle is different from a long-haul trucker that is driving across the entire country. And that's why the CDL designation just isn't appropriate for what we were doing here in Nebraska. And that's why we changed this designation.
How soon is it going to be available to producers?
Taylor, it is available right now. Go to the website, nebraska.gov, and you can search and find it there, and then you can just fill out the form. It's a one-pager, print it off, keep it in your vehicle, and you're good to go.
Has this been kind of a wink and a nudge kind of deal? Is it one of these deals that you know you're doing it, but you want to clear the mind of, I don't know if that sounds wink and nudge is appropriate, but just,
well, sure.
Like you said, just kind of making it.
So the assumption 5 years ago was that this was already the standard. But as we got into some of these things, some of the different interpretations by some officials have been different than others. Our local sheriff's department in Dawson County had looked at it differently than our highway patrol, and so that this really helps clear up so that everybody understands what is right and what is wrong. And we've done a really nice job of clearing that up, and that's going to be great for both local and state law enforcement to have an understanding of what we're really dealing with each one of these, because there is a lot of different legislative settings in different parts of and cleaning that up has been great. And you can see a lot of the things that went through this last year have been cleaning up and making us more efficient and maybe more well defined, and I welcome that.
Good.
Dave, you haven't asked a question yet.
Well, once these guys produce a product, they need to get it out to a world market. You want a conference call yesterday talking about the value of TPP and a new analysis there. Tell me your thoughts on that.
On TPP?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yesterday we did a press conference talking about a new economic study that just demonstrated the value of TPP, or the Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership, to Nebraska, and how it will help open up markets for our producers here in the state. For example, when we're talking about beef, right now Japan has a 38% tariff on our beef products, and the TPP would take that down to 9%. And this helps us be more competitive with Australian beef. And I can tell you, having done my trade mission last year to Japan, they want our products, they want our beef. And so the more we can do to be competitive there, the more we can help create jobs here at home. And so it's something that we really would like to see get passed as soon as possible. Have the Senate approve that so we can make that law.
Also, another thing regulatory-wise we've been watching is the RFS. Biofuels, that's certainly another important industry to Nebraska. Some action there lately, right?
Yeah, the EPA has come back with their target for RFS that has taken it down from where Congress statutorily set that rule. And of course, we're disappointed by that because Congress actually created that law for a reason, and we think the EPA should follow the law. In this case, we'll continue to work with the EPA with regard to it. They've taken that RFS standard down, and so we're going to see if we can't get them to bring that back up. And the real problem this creates is that by constantly meddling with that law, the EPA creates uncertainty, and that makes it more difficult for us to find investors. And of course, the ethanol industry is a $5 billion invested capital base here in Nebraska. And if we undermine that because the EPA doesn't always follow what Congress set out, people are less likely to make those investments, and of course, that hampers our ability to create jobs here in Nebraska. And ethanol is one of those industries that we create jobs all across our state. It's about 1,300 jobs all across the state. Those jobs pay an average of $58,000 a year, which is 21% higher than your average manufacturing job in our state. So these are great paying jobs that we want to encourage, and the uncertainty actually harms our ability to be able to do that.
The common theme in all of this is growing our state through agriculture and through value-added agriculture. You need to look at operations like his. If you want rural economic development, even today's efforts, certainly anytime we can use red tape and makes things easier for folks like that, right?
You're absolutely right, Steve. The heart and soul of what we do here in Nebraska is agriculture. It's our largest industry. 1 in 4 people are employed in it. And by cutting red tape or promoting markets overseas or finding value-added ways to take what we grow here, is a great example of that, or ethanol. Those are all ways that we help create jobs here in our state.
Unrelated to this topic, if that's okay?
Okay, so is everybody okay with all the press conference on this? Okay, we're done with questions on this, John. You can stay up here and try and answer these if you want.
Thank you so very much.
Yes, Tyson.
Yeah, in regards to the news last week and in what's currently going, have you had any conversations with the state auditor or maybe tourism department officials as far as the next steps here?
Well, the executive branch has been working with the board to make sure that they follow all the steps and rules they need to do. Remember, the independent commission here that manages the Department of Tourism does not report to the governor. These are all volunteers that work on this, and they are getting help from the Attorney General's office on how to follow the process to make sure everything's done the right way. But I have not had any conversations with anybody in the Department of Tourism specifically with regard to this matter or anybody along those lines.
Did you have any reaction to the findings in the audit?
Well, the findings are very concerning. I mean, what we see here is a huge abuse of state dollars. When you hire somebody for $44,000, I mean, think about that. You could hire somebody full-time for an entire year for that amount of money. And the Department of Tourism and Kathy McKillop paid a speaker to do 90 minutes worth of work to talk about happiness. I mean, that's just inappropriate. The budget for their marketing was $4.4 million over budget. They had used state dollars to buy alcohol and cigarettes. I mean, these are just abuses of state tax dollars, and Kathy McKillop should be fired for it. I mean, there just should be no tolerance for this sort of thing.
Is that a decision the tourism board has to make, or is that just merely a recommendation?
Well, right. I mean, see, this is the problem when the legislature creates these independent commissions. You have a lack of oversight. Because the Tourism Commission was pulled out of the Department of Economic Development, I no longer have any oversight over it. And so I can't exercise that discretion to find people when they're doing the wrong things and to release them from state government. So this will be something that the commission has to go through their process to do. But again, I think this is one of the problems that you have is you lose a layer of accountability if it doesn't report to the governor's office. I could take immediate action if this person was in my organization, but they're not.